Hello, this is the Captain Paxo, back with some more Dark Souls 3 PvP, and today I thought I'd talk about OP weapons in Dark Souls, but not in the way that you might expect. And I thought I'd do this over some pickaxe gameplay, because, you know, it's topical. The pickaxe is overwhelmingly underpowered. It's unnecessarily underpowered. Like, on this build, this pickaxe is heavy infused and +9. I have 29 strength, and its damage is beaten out by an uninfused great axe +6. Right. So let's just let that sink in for a second. So OP weapons, how am I going to be talking about them if not in the usual? I'm going to be talking about them as in they're a good thing. It's a good thing to have overpowered stuff in Dark Souls. Because if you think about it, in Dark Souls 3, there's not really a lot of that. There is a handful of stuff that's like considered super good. You know, you got your Onikiri and Ubadachi, you've got your Gothards, you've got your Carthus Curved Sword, and then you've got your straight swords. Am I missing anything? I probably am, but as of right now, I can't remember. You can fill me in the comments. But if you took a look at Dark Souls 1, the amount of stuff that was considered overpowered was borderline absurd. Like, you could complain about literally everything, and people did. Not like one person didn't complain about literally everything. It's just different people complained about different things, and it all accumulated to people complaining about literally everything in the game. You know, what was considered overpowered in Dark Souls 1? Let's start off with the rings. You had your Darkwood Grain Ring, your Hornet Ring. Some people thought the Red Tearstone was overpowered. I'm not really sure why. Some people thought the Leo Ring was overpowered with certain setups. Which again, I'm not really sure how you can. Now, the Darkwood Grain Ring and the Hornet Ring were nerfed in Dark Souls 1, and I personally agree that Darkwood Grain Ring was stupidly overpowered. But then, like, all great swords were considered overpowered before they nerfed them. Moonlight Greatsword, Claymore in particular, Great Lord Greatsword I don't think was slowed down that much, so that was still considered kind of overpowered. But then with your katanas, it wasn't just the washing pole like it is in Dark Souls 3. It's like all katanas were considered overpowered. You know, the washing pole had ridiculous range. The Chaos Blade had ridiculous damage, and the Uchi had good damage without causing the self-damage that the Chaos Blade did. And then the Yaito just had some super fancy heavy attacks, which you can do with every katana in Dark Souls 3, so there was no need for it to return. And then you have curved swords, you know? Like, the Falchion was the best for just straight up raw damage. The Gold Tracer was ridiculous in terms of like bleed capabilities. What's it called? Painting Guardian Curved Sword. It was a mixture of the two. The Show Tool could literally ignore shields. Like, it didn't just do chip damage through shields like it does in Dark Souls 3. It literally ignores the shield entirely, as if you're not even using a shield, you know? And all of that was considered overpowered to some extent. All the Black Knight weapons were considered overpowered. I remember Ultra Greats being considered overpowered. Ultra Greats! Who considers Ultra Greats overpowered in Dark Souls 3? Fucking no one! You know? The goddamn Great Scythe in Dark Souls 1 was considered overpowered by some people as well. you know, because of its dead angle capabilities. Because that was something about Dark Souls 1, is you could actually like dead angle in it because of lag and all that sort of nonsense. But yeah, that's not even all of it. Like, all of the sorceries were considered overpowered as well. Like, so far I've just been mentioning like melee stuff, but fucking magic was overpowered, you know. Crystal Soul Spear with the bellowing dragon crest ring and the crown of dusk, you'd be one-shotting freaking Havel, and he has like the best goddamn magic defense in the game, you know. Pursuers, Dark Bead, even Homing Crystal Soul Mass was considered a little overpowered by some. But then, like I said, pretty much everything in Dark Souls 1 was considered overpowered by someone, you know. Like, spears. Like, spears are alright in Dark Souls 3, but who considers them, like, overpowered? Not many. They were overpowered. Well, they were considered overpowered in Dark Souls 1. There were times where I considered them overpowered, but that was more due to certain play styles. But yeah, basically, Dark Souls 1, like, everything was considered overpowered. Dark Souls 3, there's only a handful of things that are considered overpowered. Now, why is this bad for Dark Souls 3? Well, when only a few weapons are considered overpowered, only a few weapons are gonna be used. I mean, these two guys are both using Gulf Hearts, for fuck's sake. And what am I using? A fucking pickaxe, you know? So you're just going to end up seeing the same weapons over and over again. And guess what? That's what we've been seeing. Oh look, more Gulf Hearts! And what's that? That's cell swords. A little bit different. But, like, do you know what I mean? You only see like a handful of weapons in PvP in this game. Because there's not that many things that can be considered all that viable, you know? Because magic is considered ridiculously weak at like soul level 120, and the quality build is ridiculously strong, and then the game also has a sort of like I think it's best described as like a tier system, where weapons are tiered. Like, certain weapons are just definitively better than others. Like, the Great Axe is just definitively better than the pickaxe, which I'm using right now. And what ends up happening, like I said, only a few weapons get used, you know? Whereas in Dark Souls 1, because everything was so strong, like, everything was considered overpowered by someone, everything got used, you know, everything was considered viable. Even the stuff that wasn't really considered overpowered, even though, like, pretty much everything was considered overpowered, even they were viable, you know. Like, my favourite weapon in Dark Souls 1, Silver Knight Straight Sword. I don't know a single person who considered it overpowered, but it was probably considered overpowered by someone, because it was a weapon that you could upgrade with Twinkling Titanite, and generally the rule in Dark Souls 1 was if you could upgrade it with Twinkling Titanite, you couldn't buff it, but you could buff the Silver Knight Straight Sword, and it had a C scaling in dexterity as well, so it was a pretty good dex weapon. And I like to make a mean Dex Faith buff build with that. But that's besides the point. Well, no, it isn't besides the point. It is the point. You know? I could use that, and not many other people did use that. The pickaxe in Dark Souls 1 was viable. I mean, only a few people used it, because there were so many other weapons that were just so much more popular, but there were people who actually used it. And I'm loving the fact that I've added an extra item to my hotbar, because it means I keep using the wrong fucking item. And you'll see me accidentally chug an Estus another time during this fight, which really pissed me off. But as I was saying, so like the amount of options in Dark Souls 1 was ridiculous, and there we go again. Dark Souls 2, like there were weapons that were considered overpowered, you know, there were setups that were considered stupid, and again, like the amount of things, I can't comment too much because I don't know too well, because as I've said in previous videos, I haven't even touched the PvP in Dark Souls 2 because I hated the PvE that much. But the more things that are considered overpowered, the more things people are going to use. And the more things that are overpowered, the more things are considered viable in the game. So in the case of Dark Souls 1, you had pretty much everything at your disposal. And in contrast to Dark Souls 3, there's only a handful of items. And in the end, one of them is going to have a much longer lifespan, like multiplayer lifespan, than the other. You know, and I say multiplayer lifespan because, in my opinion, single-player games have an infinite shelf life, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to wait on buying Skyrim Remastered, because it's like, there's no need to buy it day one because it's a single-player game. I'm not exactly going to miss out on the life of the community because I'm not interacting with the community, am I? It's a single-player game. But anyway, like, this game's PvP, in my eyes, is going to die out a lot quicker than Dark Souls 1. I mean, Dark Souls 1 probably still has active members on it, you know? I'm thinking about playing some Dark Souls 1, making a fucking PvP build using the pickaxe, and fucking invading in like Blighttown or some shit, you know? I think I'm gonna do that. I mean, I'd have to buy some Xbox Live, which, oh joy. But fuck it, I could probably find just as many people, like just as much traffic online as I do in Dark Souls 3, and I'd find way more build variety, because there just isn't that much build variety in Dark Souls 3, because like I said, there isn't that much that's viable. So this is pretty much just to say, like, I want more shit to be overpowered, because the more stuff that's overpowered, the more things that we see, you know, as opposed to just the handful of overpowered items, you know. Never even finished the list of stuff that was considered overpowered in Dark Souls 1, you know. You had your Great Combustion and your Wrath of the Gods, that good stuff, Crystal Magic Weapons, Sunlight Blade, Dark Moon Blade. I mean, Dark Moon Blade is still pretty fucking powerful in this game, but, you know. But yeah, so that's pretty much been my big old ramble about, like, well, my opinion on OP shit in Dark Souls and why it's actually really good for the game. As I pull out this mail breaker, fuck you for running away the entire time. Yeah. Although I have to say, there are, just because I'm shitting on Dark Souls 3, and I have been for quite a while now, it doesn't mean I hate the game. You know, it doesn't mean I don't think it's done anything good. I think the Moundmaker Covenant is really, really cool, but I don't really like the way it works. I like the idea of having the territorial covenants in more than just one area. And like Dark Souls 2, I could happily shit on Dark Souls 2 all day, every day, because I fucking hate that game. But it doesn't mean I can't accept that it did some things right, you know, like the dual wielding. Why do they get rid of dual wielding in this game? That doesn't make any sense. That was one of my favourite features from Dark Souls 2, and they got rid of it in Dark Souls 3. But anyway, this is, like I said, been a bit of a ramble. This is the last fight of the clip. This is the same guy that I fought where I accidentally chugged some Estus. It goes a little bit differently. We don't end up chugging Estus because I'm not a tard. I've actually learnt that I have 3 items on my hotbar as opposed to 2. You know? Why does this weapon have such shit damage? Like, that's the thing, it's like, every weapon that swings about the same speed as the pickaxe in this game does more damage. And every weapon that swings slower, or no, sorry, swings faster, okay, it does less damage, but it swings fucking faster and it can interrupt your hyper armor frames. Oh dear. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.